Langston Hughes. There are words like freedom, sweet and wonderful to say. On my heartstrings, freedom sings all day, every day. Yeah. There we go. Special guest today. Thank you, Gemma, for coming. Gemma Mathewson.
But I'm not the special guest.
You're always a special co-host
special.
guest. Yeah, that's for sure. From Guilford. She also co-hosts the Poetry Institute in New Haven. That's third Thursday of the month. And Frederick Douglass Knowles,
Yes.
the second.
Yes, the second.
Sorry about that, and I misspelled with the S. I needed another S there too. Yeah.
No worries.
Dotage. Thanks. Frederick Douglass. I love the name because it's hyphenated.
Yes.
It's historical.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked him up on Google.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know more about Frederick Douglass. And wow,
Oh, you mean this Frederick Douglass, not the Frederick Douglass?
the Frederick Douglass.
Okay, the Frederick Douglass, okay.
And I looked this Frederick Douglass up online. Wow. So aptly named, buddy.
Yes.
Wow. And how'd that happen?
I'm actually the second in my family. My great-grandfather,
Wow.
Frederick Douglass Knowles, the first, originally descended from the Bahamas and moved into Key West, Florida, which is like a hop, skip, and a jump from the Bahamas, from Nassau, Bahamas. There he met my great-grandmother, Catherine Sweeting, and they had two sons, my grandfather, Joseph Knowles, and my great-uncle, Uncle Galdwell Knowles. And they were born in the late 1800s, 1890s, and they joined the Navy when they became of age, and made their way up the coast, up the East Coast. My grandfather settling in New London, Connecticut, meeting my grandmother, Marjorie Sloan, who's actually from Hartford, Connecticut. And of course, they had 5 children, my father being one of the 5. And my father had 9 children. I'm the last, the 9th child. And so in our family, we normally interchange the first and the middle name. So there'd be like an Alan Kenneth and a Kenneth Allen and so forth. My brother Raymond has my grandfather's middle name, first name Joseph. And so, but rarely do we have someone in the family who's named directly after somebody else. And so I was one of the first to actually make that. I didn't make it happen, but I am the product of that happening. And so I didn't quite know until I did some research and found his name on one of my birth statements, and I went down to Key West to do some research as well in genealogy. And so, once I actually had saw that, that's when I had put the second in my name to carry that tradition on. And then on a quick sidebar, my Uncle Galdwell, he actually moved to New York. And he became the first black motorcycle cop in Harlem in the 50s, 40s, 50s, around that era and so forth. So the Knowles have come a long way from Bahamas via Bahamas, via the Key West up to Northeast. What
a journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, I'm so glad to get that.
Appreciate it.
Because, for a minute there I was doing Frederick Douglass, and Frederick Douglass, and I was really enjoying that. And then up came Phyllis Wheatley and our first show. I had an idea which might work out. Wouldn't it be wonderful to stage Phyllis Wheatley meets Frederick Douglass? Kind of costume, different century. But
right.
Wouldn't it be fun to have them have a conversation?
It'd be interesting to watch that conversation unfurl and the dynamics that will actually shape that conversation. And especially, through dramatization to, bring it to life and so forth of what that would entail. I mean, I believe that may help a a more modern audience or contemporary audience really get a historical significance of their contribution to American society,
Which
American
is really
culture.
important. I mean, because there's a tradition,
Yes.
which is wonderful. So, hit us with a couple of feeling poems. One thing I love about the Google information is that you're active in the schools,
Yes.
but you talked about feelings
Yes.
and how important for children to be empowered to express their feelings. That was the emphasis.
Absolutely.
And creatively, with a creative imagination, or just to get it out, but to get it out in writing, in drama,
Yes.
probably in music, right? I think that's the key mix that helps children most of all. And you have 2 daughters
Absolutely. Yeah.
and a grandchild.
And a granddaughter, Emery Sage, 1.5 years.
Oh, how wonderful. And what a
Beautiful.
tradition.
Yes.
So who were your mentors to get you kicked off as a poet?
As a poet, my mentors, growing up, I ironically did not read a lot of poetry in the literary perspective, right? So, my first introduction to poetry, of course, is going to be in elementary school with Dr. Seuss and so on and so forth, right? Shel Silverstein and
The Cat in the Hat. Oh man.
just the way that the language would sound,
Yeah.
with the rhyme scheme and so forth, because we don't really walk around talking in rhyme all the time,
No.
And so when kids, as a child, hearing something that just has this rhyme scheme to it, and it's just like, wow, that sounds really cool, And so of course, that was the initial attraction, but I really got into poetry as a result of hip hop culture.
Wow.
I was 7 years old. I was born in '73. And hip hop started in 1972, 73 in Bronx, New York, as a counterculture, a way for youth to express their discontent with social injustice and so forth. And so it really hit Connecticut about 1980 or so, when I was about 7, 8 years old. And to now hear for the first time this poetry over music, and it was just like, wow, what is this? And it was coming from people that looked like me and resembled me, right? So there was more of an allure there as well. And then some of the messages, that were able to be conveyed through poetry, through a particular, through rhyme scheme and so forth. Groups like Public Enemy, artists like Eric B. Rakim, Rakim is the MC, Eric B is the DJ, and they were my first introduction into internal rhyme scheme and so on and so forth. And so of course, being young and growing up, it's like, you want to emulate something that you really look up to, and so of course I would start to write rhymes and so forth.
And your ear was guiding you.
Yeah, it
That's
definitely
the best
was.
part.
It definitely was.
A good ear,
And I never really pursued the musical aspect of hip hop culture, but it did actually get me into writing and practicing with poetry, and of course learning more and more and more, which led to, as I got older, of course, into initial performance poetry. And from the performance poetry for a few years in Connecticut, early 2000s, from like 2000 to 2004, I really moved around nationally on the performance scene, touring. But then I realized that I really loved to play with words and this creation of images and pictures with words. And so I went and studied for a master's in English at Southern in New Haven and so forth, and really learned the principles and the tactics and the tools and devices and how to put them together and so forth.
The skill
set, and really meld those and amalgamate those with the performance aspect. And so,
Wonderful.
So my early mentors, a long answer to your question, were, early hip hop artists from the 80s and 90s and so forth. That really, of course, Tupac Shakur, phenomenal poet. I use his book, A Rose That Grew from Concrete, when I do creative writing workshops in the schools, because he wrote poetry before he got into music. And so his early poems, a collection he wrote when he was like 15, 16, 17 years of age, some really phenomenal work in there. So very, very inspiring.
There's that rose again.
Yes, Rose, yes, absolutely.
Can
yes.
you read us a poem from the Black Rose City?
Yes,
which,
so, oh, no, go ahead.
which is a book that I have to buy because
No worries.
Norwich is close to my heart. But I think this is going to be a real interesting take on the Norwich I knew and the Norwich you know.
Yes, so, originally, folks, if you're not familiar, that Norwich is the rose of New England, right? So the official flower is the rose, and so it's titled Rose City. And then, so Black Rose City is a reflection of the communities of color that really didn't have much of a voice or a platform, or were kind of like forgotten. And so the book is a collection of biographical / autobiographical poems, concepts, spoken through the narrator, whose nickname is Cabbage Head, and so because of his hair, and so it starts off, and the narrator being young, and then also just coming of age in this community, and noticing a motif of dilapidation and so on and so forth. And then, as children, children are very bright, and so they can observe things. They may not possess the vocabulary to articulate what they're really actually feeling, but they really can observe. And so these poems move through the childhood of Cabbage Head through his adolescence and into adulthood.
Wow, that's a real narrative then.
Yes, yes.
Ah, what a clever
And
structure.
is he your alter ego, or is he a conglomeration of
It's
different people that you?
He's more of a conglomeration,
Okay.
right? Because of the autobiographical, the biographical experiences and so forth. So the observance of members of the community experiencing whatever they were experiencing, and this narrator, really standing somewhat on the sideline as a child, really not knowing the rules of the game, but you see it unfurling, and then of course going into adolescence and still not knowing all the rules of the game, but still feeling strong enough to at least assert himself into the larger narrative or into the game itself.
And the larger community.
In the larger community, absolutely.
Wow.
So this first poem that I'll read is, it's titled Final Frontier, and it discusses how the narrator is reflecting back to kindergarten, because kindergarten was an awesome place. We were able to, come, play, we have story time, we have snack, we have nap time, half a day of school.
Express feelings.
Express feelings.
She worked in early childhood.
Oh, yeah.
it's
So
been
sensitive.
wonderful for years.
yeah, and so the poem then, really talks about how what happened after kindergarten, how the world just kind of changed with all this social constructs. And this one really reflects on the social construct of racism. And so this is Cabbage Head reflecting on that.
I love his name. I just love his name. The hair.
The hair, yes. Yeah. Final Frontier. Kindergarten class was my final frontier. Its sun-splattered walls housed a colorblind utopia of children who resembled each complexion under the Milky Way. Almond white, cinnamon brown, and golden yellow spectrums of light formed a unirace of a rainbow on the other side of Miss Fitzgerald's classroom door. Her warm smile and frosty white hair welcomed her students at the entrance. We began class with basic math, reciting numbers, counting all the way up to 25, our goal for the week. Story time solved the mysteries of why whales spit water out the hole on top of their head, and how kangaroos bounced up and down, never dropping their babies. During playtime, I tied on the little white apron, nuzzled the fitted cap, and sold goods from the corner store, exchanging paper coins for empty cereal boxes, thanking my customers for their service. Tuesday afternoons was sing-along. Amy's dad, Mr. Jeffers, scooted underneath the doorway, guitar case slung over his back. We gathered in a semicircle, sat Indian style, and sang to his melodic strum. Bluebird, bluebird, in and out my window. Bluebird, bluebird, in and out my window. Bluebird, bluebird, in and out my window. The funny knot in his throat slid up and down to the chorus of Oh Johnny, I'm tired. I never grew tired of the bluebirds, but the other side of Miss Fitzgerald's classroom door didn't believe in rainbows. It didn't believe cinnamon was brown, or yellow was golden, or that blackbirds should fly amongst doves.
Wow.
And so this is his reflection of how things just changed after kindergarten class. I grew up in Norwich, Connecticut, in the East Great Plains neighborhood community. And so I went to Mahan Elementary School on Salem Turnpike. And so we were like one of 2 to 3 families, black families living in the neighborhood. And so, you know, K through 6 and so forth, I mostly was the only, black person in the classroom, which wasn't an issue, especially in kindergarten class, but it was outside, it was on the other side of that door, which of course is metaphorically for society, that just reminded me of who I was and my alleged position in society and so forth. So this is Cabbage Head really reflecting on how that moment in the kindergarten class was, golden. You said a couple, right? So it was just,
Oh yeah. And
okay, all right.
Cabbage Head's voice is really
So
musical.
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
The Bluebird brought me back to age 4. Yeah.
It's funny because when I recite that poem for a younger audience, they don't know that song.
I actually did that song with the children
Did
going
you?
in and out the arms. It's done with children holding hands and they go in and out each other's arms.
Oh yes, yes,
so they
yes.
weave through.
Yeah, that's a lost gem. I remember.
Yeah.
And when I start singing, they just look at me like, I'm like, you don't know anything about this, but. So I'd like to read this poem dedicated to Martin Luther King Jr. We have had a Martin Luther King Jr. Center in Connecticut, in Black Rose City, in Norwich. And over the years, unfortunately, there's just been this inconsistency of funding. So it would periodically be open, closed, open, closed, open, closed. And then, unfortunately, one day it closed pretty much permanently. And I just read an article that now the building is going to be up for auction, where it will now, I guess, really disappear physically, the King Center itself. Not the building, but the energy and the memories. And so this is Cabbage Head reflecting on those summers where you just weren't quite sure if the doors are going to be open or not at the King Center, right? And so this one's called the King Center, to Martin Luther King Jr. A passion to follow a dream inspired me to follow my own. Crossing a busy West Main Street, ascending Fairmont to a raised ranch, slightly extending that rocky cliff behind the fire station. A white signpost hailed your legacy as I swung open a solid pine door. In the far right corner of a large single room, an abundance of snacks beckoned, devoured and rinsed with frosty colas. Elevated floorboards staged kung fu theater throwbacks. Pardoned fourth graders sang to the mantra of pencils, books, and dirty looks. Salted kernels buttered in delight, wedged between my greasy fingertips, applauded an oversized lizard wading through the Pacific, returning home in sheer victory. I remember your dream, the nightmares, the uncertainty of a solid pine door swinging or jolting, sending shockwaves up startled arms to broken hearts. Closed. No center this summer. Budget cuts forgot about us. Lack of allocated funds, a repetitive phrase we didn't understand, but understood as 1981, 3, 5, and 7 produced rattled limbs and wounded spirits. Over and over again, politics denied our pardons like ravenous children promised Happy Meals. And so, again, growing up as a child and we don't know what budget cuts are, we don't know what allocation is, we don't fully grasp the concept of it takes money, to make the world go round. And so just not knowing, and then getting to a point where because of the emotional uncertainty, it became a matter of, well, why even bother? Because I don't feel like being disappointed this year. So I'm not gonna go by the King Center. It wasn't open last year, so why is it gonna be open this year? And it's just been, unfortunately, over the years, this is going back to the 80s, and we're in, 2019, the 21st century, and now reading an article that the building is going to go up for auction. It just really, this poem really touches home on that matter. It's sad and unfortunate, and hopefully in the future that we can work so that these programs are available to our youth so that they're able to actually be able to express themselves. So.
The arc of that poem where you start with all the things that you did look forward to and all those things that made it special are very vivid. They're very vivid childhood kind of things.
Yes, yes.
I remember just after church on Sunday, I could have things that weren't allowed at my house, like sugary cereal.
Yes.
But that's so important to get those little details of buttery stuff or whatever.
Yes.
And then to have the closed door and the.
Yeah, it's just because we're excited. I mean, they would show films, and so at that time in the 80s, there was something called Creature Double Feature, where they would show Godzilla movie and another like Gamera was the big turtle, and so there'd be movie night, and so you'd come and there'd be popcorn and there'd be soda and so forth, and what big open space room and projector in the corner, and you just sit there, and a couple of video games in the corner over here, and so it was a really place to just kind of get away and be permitted to devour those sweet snacks and so forth that you primarily or normally could not do at home, because it's like no. But movie night, King Center, yeah, of course. So it was very, very vivid for us.
And families got together, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
They.
Everyone knew everyone, and so it was that communal aspect that you couldn't do anything, right? That would get yourself in trouble, and even more importantly, embarrass the family, because there was quite a few big families in Black Rose City, and so everyone knew everybody. And somehow, some way interrelated, So, if you did something that was, you got in trouble, before you got home, the message was already sent. And this is before social media. Twitter, there was no Twitter. I don't know how it happened or occurred, but by the time you got home, message was received, and you knew it was received, and so you are now anticipating the consequences, and your eyes get teary and watery, and you don't want to go home, and you kind of just slowly shuffle inside, and your lip is hanging, and you got bubbles in your nose already, and just the anticipation of the consequence of shaming or embarrassing,
That's a whole other poem.
It really is. I actually will write that.
Yeah,
one.
write that poem.
I actually will. It's a good
I like it.
It's a great idea.
How vivid that is. Your imagery is so immediate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Does Cabbage Head still have hope?
He does. He does. I believe that may be reflected in the next collection I'm working on, entitled Sonogram, which will be a collection dedicated to my granddaughter to give her snapshots of my own life, and then of course members of the family and so on and so forth.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it really hit me. I'll share a poem from that in a moment. And so I think that one's filled more with hope. I think this one is identifying the issue and the problems, and identifying from an emotional state, right? We can't really fix a problem until we actually admit that there is a problem, right? Even within ourselves, which is
and to feel
huge.
it.
Yeah. And so this one may not have as much hope as the next collection will. There's a poem here. I'll read this one actually. We used to do a lot of roller skating in Norwich, in Black Rose City. We had a roller skating rink called Great Skate.
Wow,
And,
what a get-together spot.
Every weekend, every Friday, every Saturday, and I'd get there Saturday 12 p.m. and I wouldn't leave till like 11 p.m. I just would skate all day long, and everybody would. It was just the place to go. It was the 80s, and it was awesome,
And that organ music.
Yeah.
Oh,
And of course, the 80s was the birth of music videos, and so I remember we finally got a huge projector screen overseeing the skating floor, and so you could just roller skate and just see the big TV screen and see, Michael Jackson, Cyndi Lauper, Weird Al Yankovic, so forth, right? And so we were able to have just like a lot of fun, And so this poem here is titled "How Many Fanatics in the Cosmic Realm of Roller Skating Actually Overdosed on Rhythm and Speed." I laced my shiny black boots and dashed to the boys' bathroom to christen my fluorescent green zingers in lukewarm water that assured my wheels an extra grip before hopping onto the floor. Disco lights flickered like electronic Christmas trees. Huge box speakers dangled from the ceiling, blaring Michael Jackson's Thriller. It's close to midnight. Something evil's lurking from the dawn. Under the moonlight, Vincent Price hypnotizes ambitious roller boogies with the funk of 40,000 years. Saturday nights belong to the skate gods. We, merely obedient zealots circling their shrine. Wilbur rolled in reverse, sporting blue dickies and a crisp white polo tee, embroidered skate guard, though he never benched anybody for speeding. Philip Marshall owned the only pair of triple jump bar skates ever seen in the rows. Shiny, crisp blades reflecting psychedelic hues of turquoise, green, and gold that mesmerized girls as they floated past, waving blonde locks of velour. Pete fancied an old wheel for a toe stopper. Cool, the way he cut his ankles, screeching his plump frame to a halt. An exhilarated Shanice offered me $5 for a blind couple skate. I did the math. 2 slices of pizza, a Coke, and some chips for 2 songs. Deal. Allison, the economically advantaged out of the group, dished out her allowance for pole position tournaments, and I I was the shoot the duck king, the undefeated chip-toothed champ. When Africa and Bambaata's Planet Rock hit the turntable, we'd drop conspiracy theories on who shot JR and wager how many laps one of us could achieve before Rolo, the by-the-book guard, blew his whistle. We ignored his shrieks. No time for rules, only time for speed. More whistle blowing, and then Rolo's pointed finger. His direct order to get off the floor and sit by the office. Damn, I got kicked off again. 8 laps into white lines. Melly Mel's prophetic hook, shouting to a skate fiend on the verge of ODing to don't do it, baby. Too late. During my 10-minute suspension, I contemplated how many fanatics in the cosmic realm of roller skating actually overdosed on rhythm and speed in a world of bliss and 80s pop music. Time's up. I pressed my black toe stopper firmly into the carpet, assuring me a solid thrust back onto the floor.
Oh, that's great.
That's
Yeah, they're all great.
That's really, really good. What a kaleidoscope of colors. Oh, you've got so many good colors working. I mean, they're intertwined. I'm hearing the rhythm of hip hop too.
Yeah.
How wonderful. So the music and the lights and you've got it all.
Well, the lights were, there were about 8 poles and they were just covered in lights, like disco lights. Each pole was disco lights. And they just, they would flicker with the music on and off. And so, when I sat down to write it, one of the things, the goal with my poetry is to first, devise a piece that, is comprehensible, that people can follow and understand, and not just be like, what's happening, what's going on, and they close the book and I don't like poetry,
Yeah.
And then the second goal is to really utilize imagery to paint the pictures so that through the words they can visualize and actually be on the skating floor and so forth and really partake, or in the larger sense, empathetic approach to the poem, to the experience, so forth.
And community, interweaving again. But I love that black toe stopper. It's like, can stop you right there on the carpet.
Yeah, I got kicked off a lot because I was always speeding around. And they blow the whistle and you gotta sit by the office in a chair like this.
But you knew how many times you could get away with it until you couldn't.
Yes,
right?
yes. And I never learned my lesson, But the biggest thing that would hurt was that, I'd get kicked off and I sit by the office and then one of my favorite songs would come on.
Oh.
And I just had to sit there.
Oh.
Because it wasn't too often, and a favorite song would come on, like Planet Rock was a famous hip hop song from 1980, 82 and so forth, and just the beats and the synthesizing and so forth. Like the early 80s when the synthesizer came out and so it was just like, why? Why skate gods, why?
Saturday night in the skate gods.
Yes.
I love that phrase. And also Michael Jackson up there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, on the big screen.
We're going to take a 3-minute break, or have we spent the whole hour? No, I think it's a 3-minute break. It's like, wow, I'm there.
I appreciate it. That
I'm
means
so
that
there.
the poetry is effective.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You're going to get these children off their seats in school. You do, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Boy,
Okay,
they're
Joanne.
through my windows, taking me back.
Thank
I
you.
was a director of a nursery school for 17
We're gonna take
years, and I
a
worked
3-minute
3 or 4
break.
years before that. But, and I was always a work
And we'll be right back.
teacher.
Yeah.
You don't have to be so strong.
Strength is not optional. This is my mother, my purpose. Real muscle is lifting her spirits between bedpans and bad news from doctors that doubt her strength. Strength is buried in bills, managing meds, and swallowing those moments of, Mom, it's me, your daughter. Remember? My strength is super, but I'm still human, right?
Look who's here.
Find support for your strength. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Can we get strawberries?
Okay.
With newspapers and media outlets merging all over the country, communities are losing their local voice.
There's so much going on in the community that I think doesn't really, there's a lot of folks who are unaware of it. And I think things like this can bring it out into the community and in that way kind of bring the community together.
Information and to our residents is the key to good governance. And with the national media and local media not often covering us, this is an excellent opportunity for us constantly to communicate with our constituents and also to have them communicate with us.
The best outcomes will be achieved through a community-based organization that grows its operation and scale by means of locally produced programming.
All of our content is volunteer produced, so we do shows from talk shows to music shows, working with high schools.
VSC TV is committed to ensuring that the investment made to secure these powerful tools will pay great dividends in the community for many, many years.
Now, you're on.
We are back. And where does the time go? Wow, with that performance. Spoken word poetry, right, 85, North End of Chicago.
Yeah.
And then, boom, blew the lid off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
By the way,
go ahead.
I want to leave you with something that if we can get the Frederick Douglass scene meets Phyllis Wheatley, and Phyllis Wheatley meets Frederick Douglass, that would be the raw outlines I worked up. We also have a show, which was #1 here 2 years ago, about the poetry of Phyllis Wheatley and her story.
Powerful.
First African American published poet, London. Gosh.
And was challenged. She was challenged because they were like, "Well, you didn't write this. How could you? How could you?
Oh, was she
how could you
ever
write
challenged?
this? You know, as a woman, as a black woman, how could you, hold the intellectual capacity to produce such fine work? Someone wrote this for you.
Exactly. 18 men are gathered around. So, John Wheatley says, "At home with us, Phyllis showed very soon her remarkable genius for learning." Wow. Our 18-year-old twins, Mary and Nathaniel, began teaching her to read the Bible. Many days, Phyllis spent her afternoons studying the classics with Mary. After chores, soon she was reading Homer's Iliad, Alexander Pope's verse, and writing poems. It was the real thing.
Yeah.
Of course, 18th century was highly classically allusive and a little bit sentimentality, but what a genius.
Yes, absolutely. And a pillar.
So, something sparks to have Frederick Douglass meet Phyllis and catch up, We
can have that conversation, see how we can put that together, that project.
Rita Dove, July, The Conspiracy of Colors, Catch Up, marshmallows, the tub of ice, bacon strips floating in pale soup. The sun, like a dragon spreading its tail, burns the blue air to ribbons. Yeah, the same kind of power and movement. Isn't that beautiful for your grandchild?
Thank you very much. Emery says she will definitely, I will enjoy reading the stories to
Grandpa,
her.
you're just going to be with it.
I really appreciate that.
I'm so happy.
Can you read more
Yeah.
of your stories to us?
So
That's
this
what I
one
like.
is, I'll read these two. This is part of the, maybe three, part of the new collection that I'm working on now.
Oh, great.
Titled Sonogram.
Sonogram.
And
Why?
it was inspired by my granddaughter's sonogram. And I had was working on exercise with some friends, and they said, take a picture, write a poem, and ekphrasis. And I was like, what am I going to write on?
Yeah.
And I had the sonogram, and I looked at it, and then I just tilted it, and she resembled the continent of Africa. And so I wrote this poem with allusions to Africa, to countries or cultures in Africa. She's black and Cape Verdean, and Cape Verde is off the coast of Africa. And so it's titled Sonogram. It was published in the Connecticut River Review last year, if I'm not mistaken, this last fall, or the year before. Time goes by so fast.
Doesn't it?
So Sonogram.
Oh, great.
Grandchild, I see you coiled in your sanctum, cultivating through sonic resonance. Your embryo shaped in the soul of Africa, yet the size of a raspberry. Your heart beats like Lumumba's in the seed of the Congo. Your mind bathes in a river of Malian wisdom, settling under the suns of Timbuktu. Your sacral rests on a Praetorian throne. Cape Verde, your pineal crowned. Ethiopia, your Eden. Love, your kingdom. What do you dream? Your mother is beautiful. Born from this lineage we will leave to you. Your father maturates into manhood. You will help him with this. I will spoil you like a baba. Teach you how to fasten your breastplate, affix your shield, and wield your sword with precision. How to breathe with the sonic boom. Model for you how a warrior protects the Eden they have not even began to utter into being. Your chi will cause mountains to melt into mustard seeds, placed into your back pocket, to be planted in the fertile soil of your grandchild's mind, as I will do for mine.
Oh, I truly love that generational sense, which sort of wraps it up into swaddling clothes.
Yeah.
I like the part about the father too.
Oh, maturating into manhood.
Yeah.
It takes time for us men, as you know, to mature.
And I like how from your perspective, you're hoping it all fits in the
fits
best
together.
possible way.
Yes,
You're
yeah.
giving it your acceptance and, have that.
Yeah, and you
Hope.
will help
Yeah,
him with this,
yeah.
right? As my daughter helped me mature, as a young father and so forth, 17 years of age. And so she helped me to mature, So
Wow.
children will do that, right?
Children will do that
Yeah.
over and over. And now a whole new journey for you with this,
Yes,
this embryo
grandparenthood.
now. Wow.
It's something.
But what an analogy, with the continent of Africa. That was so perfect.
Yeah,
Just turning
I
it.
I saw it and it was just
Oh.
like, whoa.
Whoa.
Like, wait a minute, okay. Like there's Madagascar down here. And I'm just like, okay.
That
And then
imagery is just.
I just took off with it.
And
This-
you were just on the phone with friends in Africa, you said? this
Yes,
morning?
yes, in Botswana. Yes,
Botswana.
That I visit them. I won't say regularly, but I went this year and I went last year.
Oh, cool.
And so, beautiful culture, beautiful time, beautiful place.
Do you read and perform?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Friend of mine's mother is a professor at the University of Botswana over there, so I've done readings with them. I've toured over there and so forth, and so
Wow.
it's like a second home for me.
Oh,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
what a nice roundness to that. Yeah, and your granddaughter. Whew,
It was also a nice swerve how with the baby and you're so, your grandparent being protected, but you put her right in a, in a, what do you call it, breastplate?
Breastplate, yes.
Yeah, I love that. I
Thank
love
you.
how it,
So this poem I wrote, it's titled His Last Name Mine, which is about my father, who died when I was 6 months old.
I read that online.
Yeah.
I was so blown away by that one.
Yeah, he had a heart attack on the job. 9 children.
Wow.
Mom's housewife. Kind of 50s type of environment. And so, I never got to know him. And so one day I was at the funeral, the graveyard cemetery, and for another funeral, and I decided I wanted to go and find out what my dad's marker was. And he was a Korean War veteran. He was a airman recruit, so he rigged the parachutes and so forth. So this one's titled His Last Name Mine. And this one was published by the University of South Mississippi for Women, their journal. I enter Cedar Grove's office and extend the slit of sunlight, peering through a cracked door, lock eyes with an old sexton, inscribing names of fallen souls. I stammer hello, utter the silent K in my last name. He flips through an index of ancient files, brushes a layer of cumulus dust from 1974, and engraves 56 R7 HK onto the yellow surface of a Post-it. I thank him for his time, slowly exit his office, and descend down the hillside, studying each pillar in search of my father's marker. I pause in front of a pallid row of ancient stone, flap the Post-it over a cluster of ants to unveil the worn plaque of a Negroid sailor. His last name mine. Clouded tears recall the legacy of an airman recruit rigging chutes for the USS Wright. A native son swaying to Coltrane in Korean cafes with Coltrane in Korean cafes with cinnamon women who never choked on the plume of black smoke sewn into his skin, debating Truman's liberation of Yongsan that would churn 5 million souls into Korean dust. And this last one I'll do.
That took my breath away. Plus, the music in Cinnamon Women. And
Yeah.
those could you read that section again? Because the musicality is like, whoa.
So that last stanza reads, clouded tears recall the legacy of an airman recruit rigging chutes for the USS Wright. A native son swaying to Coltrane in Korean cafes with cinnamon women who never choked on the plume of black smoke sewn into his skin, debating Truman's liberation of Yongsan that would churn 5 million souls into Korean dust.
That is musical perfection.
Well,
That's
thank you.
what it is.
Thank you.
And usually it's the romantic poets who pull that off, But wow.
Yeah, I work very hard at diction and word choice to evoke that musicality, which really stems from my hip hop upbringing.
Yeah.
So that the words really just kind of sing off the tongue, off the palate, so that it just the listener can just, or the reader can just kind of sway with the words.
yeah,
and
there's some
experience.
pop, there's some slide, there's some, there's different things happening with
Yeah.
every time
Not
you
to
turn a
mention
corner.
the children in
Yeah.
the audience, huh? Whoa.
So this last one I'll read is
Okay.
the latest one I've written. It's titled Trinity Hill.
By the way, is that still Cabbage Head?
Well, this is the older Cabbage Head now,
Good.
so I don't know if that narrator for this manuscript will be Cabbage Head himself.
Yeah.
But it's Cabbage Head-esque.
Yeah. But older, definitely.
Older, yes.
Experienced.
So this one here is a villanelle, and it's titled Trinity Hill. My brother's been living with HIV/AIDS for the past 28 years, and he resides in a nursing care facility titled Trinity Hill in Hartford on Hillside Avenue, which is the Frog Hollow section of Hartford, and it's at the bottom of the hill of where Trinity College actually sits.
I know the neighborhood. That's
Okay, yeah.
my old neighborhood.
Oh,
as a
exactly.
Kid.
So this one is titled Trinity Hill from my brother. Your brother doesn't live in Frog Hollow for its woozy red sidewalks slithering to the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, glinting over a pool of niños who burrow rocks into its spine to make broken glass sing. Your brother doesn't live in Frog Hollow for its desert bodegas tucked in the shadow of hillside, like the soul of a Lucy rising to the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, past asthmatic niñas wheezing below McCook's gateway, devoutly praying. Your brother doesn't live in Frog Hollow for a Bishop Burnell bachelor's in Thoreau, ignoring another local Latino marching on the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, unraveling the red ribbon around immunodeficient kin, struggling alongside him, knowing your brother doesn't live in Frog Hollow on the summit of an Ivy League rainbow.
That is so good, I need to hear it again.
Okay.
Oh, man.
And for those not familiar with a villanelle, I mean, you repeat the first and third lines, and it has an ABA rhyme scheme, so you hear the hollow and the ings over and over again.
Over and over, the music, yeah.
Trinity Hill. Your brother doesn't live in Frog Hollow for its woozy red sidewalks slithering to the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, glinting over a pool of niños who burrow rocks into its spine to make broken glass sing. Your brother doesn't live in Frog Hollow for its desert bodegas tucked in the shadow of hillside, like the soul of a Lucy rising to the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, past asthmatic niñas wheezing below McCook's gateway, devoutly praying. Your brother doesn't live in Frog Hollow for a Bishop Burnell bachelor's in Thoreau, ignoring another local Latino marching on the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, unraveling the red ribbon around immunodeficient kin, struggling alongside him, knowing your brother doesn't live in Frog Hollow on the summit of an Ivy League rainbow.
Bravo, man.
And it's to highlight the economic disparities of, you know, an Ivy League institution.
The rainbow.
And then the rainbow, and then the dilapidation that lies beneath on the bottom of the hill and so forth. And there seems to be a motif of universities that do that, you know, USC in California, Yale and New Haven and so forth, where these institutions will find, I guess, the cheapest property, and so forth, and then you have this disparity. I mean, Yale does a lot of good work in their communities and so forth, but the undertone in Hartford is that Trinity really isolates itself from the community and so forth. So that poem was to highlight that and how he actually lives at the bottom of this Ivy League institution. Rainbow.
That's a marvelous contrast, by the way.
Yeah.
The Rainbow Ivy League.
You're feeling the top and the bottom all the while as you go back and forth in the poem.
What's your brother's name?
Jamie Forrest Knowles.
Jamie Forrest Knowles.
Yes.
And how is he?
Oh, he's doing really good, actually. He's been living like 20 years, HIV and AIDS, and he's had a couple of close calls. literally on his deathbed like 5 times, and he just keeps bouncing up. He has the most powerful spirit I've ever seen in my life.
That's what it takes.
He's my superhero.
Oh, that's great. I have a gift for you and him.
Oh, great. Appreciate that.
Frederick Douglass. Oh, man.
I appreciate it.
You are the hottest guest we ever had.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. You rocked it.
I appreciate the time, the opportunity.
When Phyllis comes in and Frederick Douglass walks in,
there's some chemistry. There's definitely some chemistry in the building.
It's going to be wonderful.
Absolutely.
I'm thrilled. You entertained me beyond.
Well, thank you for the time and the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity as Hartford's first poet laureate, that appointment. So it's given me the opportunity to really bring a new breath of fresh air to poetry, to all those who love it, from the young to the older. So I'm very thankful for this opportunity.
Oh, I'm so happy. It'll be worldwide. You just send it off to Botswana.
Absolutely.
And
that's a nice thought.
Get a reading gig.
Yeah,
on top of the hill.
Oh, yeah.
Up there in that Ivy League.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, once they hear that poem, they might not invite me. So
that's perfect.
We'll invite you at PI,
we'll see.
though.
I'll write you a letter. I have a master's from Trinity.
Okay, well, there it is. Thank you.
Oh, it's a wrap. But I don't want it to end. My gosh. But I can watch.
Absolutely.
Every Monday night, Channel 19, 8 o'clock.
I'm going to send all my friends to this one.
Oh, yeah.
Please do.
And
please.
on the internet. I got to shake your hand again.
Hey, brother, anytime, man.
Man.
Thank you.
That was the real thing.
I appreciate it.
I'm so happy you came. Yeah.
Thank you for the invitation.
You helped us all, you know.
That's the
9
power
pounds.
of poetry. The power
Isn't
of
it?
poetry, yeah, man.
Isn't it?
Brings us together. All of us together.
And my ears are reborn.
Do you have Thursday night evenings off?
Not right now during the semester. I teach Thursday nights, but after May.
So in the summer, might
June,
be a good time to get you if we don't.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'll be in touch with you soon.
Oh,
Okay.
that was a wonderful wrap.
The summer filled up or not.
Thank you so much.
I don't do that. I mean, I don't keep track of that, but I'll.
Okay.
Thanks, John.